Welcome to our session today. This is our 27th lesson, biology for the Form 4 class. Since the topic is support movement in animals, but in our today's lesson, we are going to discuss joints, different types of joints and their functions and their structures. And lastly, we should be able to discuss muscles in humans, the structure and the functions. By the end of the lesson, obviously, we should be able to identify different types of joints, muscles, their location, and functions in the mammal. But we are really interested, more interested in the human body. So let's begin our topic by defining what is a joint. Now, a joint is a connection between two or more bones. So it is a connection between two or more bones. There are various types of joints which permit varying degrees of movement. So the connection actually is meant to provide or to ease your movement. And then remember, this movement is also allowed up to a given limit. As some joints, the articulating joints are held together to allow such movement. So we may have some joints whereby the balls are held together such that particular point can allow movement. So at the articular surface, the points at which these two bones articulate, we have a layer of articular cartilage. A layer of articular cartilage that protects wearing away of the bones due to friction, and it also absorbs shock. So what I'm saying is that in the absence of, for example, if you take these two points here, what these two bones articulate, this is the femur, this is the tibia. Between the two joints, we have a cartilage that actually minimizes the incidence of friction. If there was no cartilage, then you have those two bones coming into contact together. And because of increased movement, you have some friction and possibly you have one part of the bone wearing away, which will actually lead to some complications. Now, these are types of bones, the types of joints that we have. Okay, so we have the immovable joints of the skull. So the skull has joints, you see that? There are those subdivisions that we have. So the bones are joints, but these joints are fixed. They cannot be moved. Then we have the forelimb, is the arm. Okay. We have the joints between at the shoulder, is the joint there. At the elbow, that's the joint again. This one is a ball and socket joint that allows your leg to do that. At the leg, we have the cerebellum, the pelvic, and the femur. We have a ball and socket joint here. This one we have another patella. This is a hinge joint, the knee joint again, ball and socket. This is an elbow joint again. You see that? So those are the different types of joints that are present in the different parts of the body. They are the same. At the neck, again, remember here we have the pivot type of joints. At the neck, these are gliding. Gliding joints allows at least minimal friction, a minor movement. The hip joints, more or less at your arm, and also the wrists. Okay. The ball and socket type are present at the shoulder, and then the ball and sockets at this particular point at the leg again. You see. Now those are some of the examples of the joints that are present in the human body. So in mammals, there are three main types of joints. One, we talk of the fixed joints. Now in fixed joint, there is no movement between the bones and the joints. So you have a joint that is completely immovable. Very good examples talk about the bones of the cranium. The bones that make up the skull. They are joints, but those joints do not allow any movement at all. And then the joints that are also between the joints of the pelvic girdle. So the pelvic girdle is also another area where you have fixed joints. Number 2, we have what referred to as the gliding joints. These are joints that are found between the short bones that glide of one another, and therefore they produce some movement. Very good examples are the vertebral bones. Those are the cervical vertebra. Okay? The movement between the vertebra is actually allows very limited movement. So we call that gliding. These are glide samples of gliding joints. Thus we have movement joints between the carpals or the finger joints. Okay, that's movement between these, the toes and the leg, metacarpus and metatarsus. Then number 3, we have the movable joints. Okay, they are also referred to as synovial joints, since the joint area is normally filled with synovial fluid that acts as a lubricant, preventing friction between the articulating bones, synovial joints. Now, these joints are characterized by bones that are covered with cartilages at the ends, and the bones being held together by tough ligaments. So we have cartilages and ligaments holding these bones that actually form synovial joints. Now, the joint areas are filled with a fluid which is meant for lubrication, and we call it a synovial fluid. Now, there are types of synovial joints. We have the ball and socket joints. Okay? This is a type of joint in which you have 2 bones, but one has a round head and the other one has a depression or a cavity into which the head of the first bone fits and moves freely. In a ball and socket joint, movement is possible in all directions. For example, the hip joint and the shoulder joint. So the shoulder joint is where we have the glenoid cavity. Okay? So it allows movement in all directions. That's your shoulder. Equally, if you look at the hip joint, where you have the femur and the cerebellum articulating, it can allow movement in either direction. So this is an example of, we have one bone with a rounded bone, the other one having a groove, the cerebellum, and then it fits in such that movement is allowed in all directions. So that is an example of a ball and a socket joint. This is an example of a synovial joint. The ball and socket joint allows the limb to rotate through 360 degrees actually. However, these joints are unable to bear the very heavy bones. So the surfaces are normally covered with the cartilage. In the elastic, that is normally elastic articulating cartilage. The bones are separated again by synovial cavity that contains the fluid, that is synovial fluid, that is actually meant for minimal friction and also lubrication. Ligaments will hold both bones into their position. So this is an example of each joint. That's the shoulder. So we have the humerus, the head of the humerus. Okay, this is the humerus. Then the chromium. You can see these are the joints is actually connected with the scapula. The glenoid cavity is a space where the head of the humerus actually goes in, and then the joint then can be able to allow that maximum movement. This is the pelvic, okay, of course showing the difference in the cerebellum. This is where the other parts go in, of course. On the other part is where you have the femur coming in, so they can be able to do that. Now we need to discuss some of the functions of some parts of the joint. So you have the synovial membrane. It is around the synovial cavity, and therefore its main function is actually it secretes the synovial fluid or the lubricant. Then the synovial fluid acts as a lubricant at the ends of articulating bones, and therefore it reduces friction. The ligaments they hold the articulating bones together. The cartilage, it reduces friction between the bones, and it is able to absorb shock in case of any movement. The other type of joint is the hinge joint. The hinge, as the name suggests, it allows movement in one plane only, just like the hinges of a door. Now the depression in one of the bone allows the smooth caudals of another bone to fit and articulate, and therefore they only allow movement in one direction. So the maximum stretch of the limb at this is actually 180 degrees as actually plane. The hip joints are found mostly at the elbow, the knee, and the phalanges. So talking about a hip joint being present on the elbow, and of course the phalanges, which are the fingers, okay, and your knee. We take a break. We'll resume. We'll be discussing how movement occurs within a particular joint.